Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Madam. I'm coming back to you once again. This time we're gonna go over to TMZ, and I hope your Mother's Day for you was good. Hope that you got some rest, got some recognition, got some pampering, and all of those things. But I am here to talk about the TMZ article. It's about Tory Lanez. It's in the crime section. It says Tory Lanez team says prison stabbing happened after presenting Megan Thee Stallion new evidence. Here we go. It says Alex Shapiro tells TMZ Tory Lanez was tried and convicted by a jury of his peers, and his case was properly adjudicated through the court system. This is not a political matter. This is a case of a violent assault that was resolved in the court of law. As he recovers from the brutal prison stabbing, Tory Lanez reps held a press conference to claim Megan Thee Stallion's ex-BFF, Kelsey Harris, is the one who should be locked up for the 2020 shooting. Several constituents of Unite the People addressed the media on Wednesday in downtown LA, and the orgs-led legal consultant Walter Roberts claims a bodyguard by the name of Bradley James overheard Kelsey admitting to actually firing the pew pew that hit Megan. Okay. James allegedly heard Kelsey say she fired the pew pew 3 times, in which Tory grabbed her arm and knocked it to the ground, causing the weapon to fire 2 more times. A neutral witness, Sean Kelly, testified during the trial that he saw 2 women fighting before being broken up, which aligns with Tory's newly submitted evidence. Gianno Caldwell, a contributor for the New York Post, blamed former LA County DA George Gascon for railroading Tory during the trial and improperly using gun enhancement charges to paint Tory as a menace. He said when the Post reached out to Gascon, Kelsey and Megan for comment on the bodyguard's claims, only Megan's team responded, requesting additional information. Okay. Tory Lanez trial exhibits. If you want to go and look at that, you can go look at that for yourself. I ain't trying to get pinned down by TMZ. I'm just trying to read the article. You feel what I'm saying? TMZ is kind of iffy when it comes to showing certain things in terms of videos and stuff like that. They real hounds for that. So yeah, if you want to go check that out, I will leave the article in the description as I always do. Days later, Tory was stabbed in prison by a fellow inmate, and they're not calling the attack a coincidence. They're screaming conspiracy. Political strategist Diane London echoed the Megan's conspiracy claim while comparing Tory's plight to that of the Menendez brothers, who could be on the verge of being released despite admitting to killing their parents. She noted how no forensic evidence was found on the gun that shot Megan and says it was determined that there was a 0.001% chance Tory's DNA was on the gun. Tory's father, Sunstar, also joined the conference, revealing he bore no ill will towards Meghan, but he wants justice for his son, rightfully so. Any parent, generally speaking, any parent would want that for their child, regardless of what the circumstances is. But yeah, man. I mean, I gotta start this off with a personal confession of mine. When this story first broke and everything like that, oh my God, it was terrible. And, she had got pew-pewed in the foot and, things of that nature. And, against my first thought, I tended to swing towards like the sympathy. Oh, she got pew-pewed and all of these things. You know, may I add, I have no ill will towards her or Tory Lanez or any person, Kelsey, any person involved. This is just my opinion. Just point blank, period. It's just my opinion. It does not represent anything or anyone other than the opinion of mine. Okay? With that being said, you know, I did speak out on, her being pew-pewed and things like that and stuff. But then, I started going back and watching, and the one thing that changed my mind, well, it didn't change my mind right then and there, but had me thinking, like, wait a minute, hold up. First of all, the trial was too rushed. The video that he did on Instagram, some people try to say that Tory Lanez, he's guilty, so he's going to try to jump out in front of it and pop, pop, pop. The thing that did Tory in, not the fact that it wasn't none of his DNA or fingerprints or whatever was found on the pew-pew or anything like that. What did him in my opinion, was that jail call, which some may say was a setup. You know what I'm saying? Some people have argued that, the call was taken out of context and that it was misconstrued or, possibly edited in some way, but who knows? That's neither here nor there. Nobody was there. I definitely wasn't there. So I can't speak to it, But, in my opinion, that's what really did him in, was that quote unquote call / quote unquote confession between him and Kelsey. It may have seemed harmless at the time and things of that nature, but it really did for me, in my opinion, it really had real consequences in terms of being tried in the court of public opinion, which carried so much weight to me. The magnitude of it carried straight on over into the actual trial itself. Now, during the trial, it was a lot of things that I just seemed like it was an error. A lot of stuff wasn't allowed in. It was just like, I could vaguely remember there was a witness that lived in a neighborhood where all of this took place. And either their balcony was open or they were sitting on their balcony enjoying the nice cool air, whatever the case was. And from their vantage point, they seen something there. A statement was taken, but I don't know if it was, said in court or whatever the case was. The testimonies was short. It just seemed like an in and out thing, like, oh, I just want this to be over. And, that's it, that's all. Whatever the case is. As to Kelsey, I really found it very suspicious that, at the time my thinking was is that, oh, okay, well, she's talking to Tory, blah, blah, blah. She's talking to Tory. Her and her and Megan on the outs, I actually for a moment, I actually just think that it was like a petty squabble between them and that they were going to, what I'm saying, click back up, be cool. I mean, that remains to be seen publicly, but whatever. But in the most part, I think that was what really sealed the deal when Kelsey did that jail call with him, and everybody knows, well, everybody should know or be aware of is that anytime you make a call from a correctional facility, it's definitely going to be recorded. It's not no if or when, okay? It's going to definitely be recorded. And if it don't never come out, that means that they showed you some type of grace or mercy, okay? So just for anyone that don't know, your calls are always recorded, okay? So, I just, but what changed my mind is that I actually went back and, like I said, and looked at that Instagram video that he did, when everything first started kicking off and jumping off and things like that. And it just had me thinking, like, wait a minute. It didn't give me the impression, in my opinion, it didn't give me the impression that he was doing it to jump out in front of it because it was fresh and, people were, just starting up with the accusations and things like that or whatever the case was. It just seemed like to me like he just seemed like he felt like he was being pushed into this corner. So, in my frame of thinking, he was going to do everything in his power to try to, just get his story out there. I think that was like the main thing at the time, just get his story out there, let him know. Some have speculated that this happened because he said no to a very important and powerful person. It could be true. It could not be true. I don't know. I'm not party to anyone's personal dealings or personal affairs. However, I wouldn't be surprised if, that was it had some relevance to it. And the thing about that is that, one person said it best. Industry niggas or industry ninjas, excuse me, kind of look down on independent ones, because you're independent, you're not under no helm, doing it. And let's be honest, Tory was doing the damn thing independently. He was doing the numbers. He was doing it like he had built his whole fan base based upon his talents, based upon, him having the ability to switch between rapping and, a little bit of R&B, little bit of, other music genres and things like that. So, he definitely is talented in that sense. Is he can be multi-purpose. He can be one genre and then he can switch over to another. He can blend the two and things like that. And his music, really, to be honest with you, is not bad at all. Just in my opinion. But, yeah, that's what did it for me. I went back and watched that Instagram thing, and then his father, it's just, when he sit outside in that courtroom, I could see the frustration. I could sense the frustration. I could, and it's just like, wow, man, my heart really went out to him. Now, as to what he was saying or accusing or who he was accusing, that's neither, like I said, I'm not a party to any of that. I don't have no inside knowledge on none of that. I don't claim to have any inside knowledge, but I will tell you it was pretty goddamn compelling to see a father's grief. And that's one thing about a parent, whether it be the father or the mother or both, to see their grief, to know that, you spent your life trying to protect your child, only for something to happen where it puts you in a position where your protection is limited, if that makes sense. That, despite your best intentions, and I've always said this in any situation as a parent, the thing is that